Hello, everyone. Come on in and grab your snacks. We're a few minutes early. Let's see, we're 7 minutes early. No, 3 minutes early. And we're just going to come in and make sure everything's working as we start our live for this evening. So come on in, join me. If you're here, say hello. If you're here, let me know that you can hear me. We'll make sure we get all of that preliminary stuff done and out of the way. I'm going to pull up my phone and make sure we're going live and everything's good. How are you? I hope you've had a great weekend and the start of your work week is going good. Looks like we're going live. If you're here, I would love it if you said hello. And okay, so as we get started, if you see the little live button, it's a little red little icon up at the top. We're live on Facebook. And if you don't see that here on Facebook, then you're watching the replay. I'd still love it if you participate and follow along in the conversation and join in. And if you're over on YouTube, this is a Facebook Live. This is the replay, but I would love it if you join in with us and continue the conversation over here on YouTube. So how is everyone? Look behind me. See that? I hung up my family tree quilt. I have the Be Grateful quilt just hanging there all sad like. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with that yet. So we're just a couple minutes early. I usually like to jump on and make sure that everything's running well before we get started. So I would love it if you say hello. Are y'all ready to share some stuff this evening? I have, let's see, 3 different sets of slideshow pictures and then 5 topics and a really easy but fun challenge for this week. So might be a little bit of a shorter live video this week. And I'm okay with that. Harlan had to work late. He just got home maybe 15 minutes ago. And so he is eating dinner. And so yeah, if it's a shorter video, I'm pretty sure he'll be okay with that. We can go and maybe watch some TV or just sit and talk. He's been gone all day. So I would love it if you share what you've been working on. And if you're here, I would love it if you said hello. And let me know that the sound is working okay. Because we have 1 minute before we get started. I drew a blank. Let's see. I was looking all this past week at our Facebook group page. I've been so happy for all of you who participated in last week's challenge and have organized either a little section of your room. Maybe it was a drawer or 2, or maybe you went through some fabric boxes, or maybe you just did an overhaul and organized and cleaned your whole room. I really enjoyed looking at all of your photos. When I see photos like that, I usually blow up the photo because I love looking at all of the little knickknacks and supplies and tools and stuff that you have laying around. So it's been a lot of fun for me. Oh, and I wanted to say while we're talking about that, I see all of your pictures that you post throughout the week. And so if you want to share them during our live video, the morning of our live video, I do the little post announcement that's usually pinned up to the top. If you want to share any of your photos, make sure to post in the comment section of that post. I don't go through our group and share pictures and topics that we've posted on our group for the simple reason that maybe not everybody wants to be featured in the live, and I don't want to force you to do that. So if you want to share, make sure that you have put your comments into that little announcement up at the top. Usually at the end of our live, I unpin it and then it starts to scroll down towards the bottom. So make sure you do that if you want to share. We are going on 8:01, and so I think we can go ahead and get started. I'm seeing little smiley faces come through the screen. I'm hoping that we are working okay because I haven't seen anybody say that we're not. Oops. 23 comments. Let me just check that. Make sure we're going good. Okay, okay. Hello, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. It was telling me that there were no comments, but I could see 29 people, but no comments, and so I didn't know if we were working okay or not. Okay, it looks like we're sounding great. Thank you so much. So glad you're here. We're gonna get started with our slideshow for this evening. So we have 3 different sets of slides, or 3 people sharing their slides tonight. Let's see, we have a story from Michelle, we have Yvette's pictures, and Tracy has a picture of her project we're going to share. So those are our slideshow people. Let me move some screens around and get that all organized. Okay, here we go. Make that bigger so I can see. So for the slideshow this evening, we are going to start with a little story from Michelle, who posted on our sharing post this morning. I think it's amazing how small our world is. Just how the internet really brings people together, and you never know who you're going to meet or who you're going to come across online. So this is Michelle's story, and I just wanted to share her story with you. She says, I'm pretty excited to have joined this group. I'll miss tonight's live, but I have a short story. My mother and I quilted together for years. I backed off for about 10 years due to life, but I am back. That sounds a lot like my quilt story. It sounds very similar. I was looking up videos on t-shirt quilts and came across Lisa's videos more than once. Yeah, there's quite a few of them on there. And was shocked to see you holding up Picosin t-shirts. My best friend lives there, and I am in Massachusetts. Isn't that crazy how Picosin's a small little town, y'all, and that is crazy that she's in Massachusetts and she sees me holding up a Picosin t-shirt. Such a small world. Next time I fly down there, I'll have to visit your shop if you have a storefront. So I let her know that I do not have a storefront. I probably don't ever have the notion to ever open one. I've been there before, and I like the little privacy of my one-person show. So I told Michelle she's welcome to visit my studio anytime. But it was so awesome to hear that her best friend lives in the small little town that I am from. I think that is so just like, what a coincidence that she comes across that video on YouTube. And I think she asked her friend if she knew me, but Cosin's small, but it's not that small anymore, and she doesn't know me. But how awesome is that? I'm so glad you shared your little story with me, Michelle. And tell your friend I said hi. And yes, I've made a ton of t-shirt quilts for a lot of families in Picosin. And yay, go Picosin. Thank you so much for reaching out to me. And when you do come visit your friend, I hope you do drop me a line and we can hang out for a little bit. Okay, we're going to move on to Yvette. Now I'm going to read this part because I have this part small so that we can see her pictures a little bit bigger. And she says, here's my challenge. This was the challenge for last week. After I cut all of the t-shirt quilt blocks, I had lots of leftover t-shirt remnants. Let me just pull up that picture real quick so you can see what Yvette is talking about. So I folded them all nicely and I placed them in my coffee cup boxes. They come in handy. This is until my new house gets built with a sewing craft room, and then I'll reorganize. By the way, Lisa Capen, you'll notice that the picture shows an angel mosaic. Oh, we haven't gotten there yet. First, let's look at the big pile of shirts on her cutting table. Do you know how many times I have been there with a huge big pile of t-shirts? This looks like the start of many of my weeks. So let's take a look at how she used her boxes to organize the extra bits of t-shirt material, and I think that's fantastic. A lot of the times I will save, if they're really good sections of t-shirts, like the backs that doesn't have any logos or anything on them, I'll save them because you never know when you have another t-shirt quilt and you just need a little bit more black, or you need maybe a pop of green or something, and then you'll have, you know, all these remnants to pick and choose from. So I like that you're saving them. All about saving all the extra bits. This is the photo with the angel mosaic. She said, you'll notice that the picture shows the angel mosaic tile in its beginning layout. I need to get the right color tool I want for this project, and I'll post it when it's done. And a t-shirt layout, which I rearranged. So we're going to look at her t-shirt quilt layout here in just a second. I'm going to see if I can't make this picture a little bit bigger so that you can see what she's working on with her angel mosaic. I'm just going to blow it up really big and we'll get a glimpse of what she's working on before she posts any pictures. So I see she has a little pink angel with like a gold or a beige or off-white background. Cannot wait to see what you're doing with this. I think that's awesome. I love that little mosaic. It's been one of my favorite projects here lately. Let me resize that photo back down. There we go. That looks like so much fun. I'm wondering what color tool you're going to use over top of it. I can't wait to see your update pictures. So let's take a look at her t-shirt quilt layout that she has reorganized. And I'm assuming this is the one that you're making, I think it was your son-in-law, who's really, really tall. Yeah, that looks fantastic. So I'm curious, Yvette, what do you think about the whole process? Are you loving the t-shirt quilt? Is it a project that you'll make more of, or are you ready to be done and move on to something else? I think it's funny that most people fall into a category of they either love doing t-shirt quilts or they did it and they don't ever want to do it again. So I'm interested where you fall in one of those two categories. Let me make sure I got my slideshow all right. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing, Yvette, and we look forward to updates. I know you're going to be so excited when you get your house built. It was some time ago you were telling me the size of your new sewing and craft studio that's going to be in your new house, and it was humongous. So I'm very excited for you. Let's see, before we move on to Tracy's pictures, or picture, I just want to make sure, looks like we're still going live. Okay, we have some sharing to do for Tracy, and she says, this quilt was kind of emotional for me to make. An officer's wife contacted me regarding making this for her husband. 2 years ago, he was shot in the line of duty. Let me pull up her picture real quick. There we go. It took a year for his recovery. She wanted the uniform he was wearing that night, along with his other police clothes. If you look closely, there are 3 blocks with holes and rips from his clothes that night. My son-in-law is an officer, so this brings it really close to home. Their job as first responders is so dangerous and important, and I totally agree with you, Tracy. There's people who are gifted for certain things, certain careers, certain jobs, being in ministry, being all kinds of things, okay? And I think it takes a special calling on your life to serve in the military, to serve as a first responder, a police officer, a firefighter. It definitely takes someone who is so brave. And I know that I could never do it. I am a huge scaredy cat and I don't like confrontation. But I so admire and respect all of the first responders, and it is so, so dangerous, but they provide so much good. And just thank God that he is okay. And a year recovery, that's such a long time. I think this quilt is going to be so special for this family. And I like that they put the clothes that he was wearing that night into the quilt. I like the holes and the rips. And I've done quilts similar to that have significant parts of the clothing that maybe only the family recognizes in the beginning until they tell others what it is. But wow, thank God he's still here. And I think your quilt is awesome. I hope you keep us updated, Tracy, on their response when they get their quilt and their reaction. And again, I'm going to ask you, I don't know if this is your first t-shirt quilt. I'm assuming it's not, but I don't know. What do you think about the process of making a t-shirt quilt? Do you love it? Or do you just do it because you've been asked to? And will you make more? I'm wondering if the center block that goes horizontal that says "Forever Our Hero," was that a t-shirt logo or did you embroider that? Again, I always end up having more questions. But thank you so much, everybody, for sharing your pictures. I think that everyone really enjoys seeing your work, and believe it or not, you sharing your milestones and your projects is a lot of inspiration for everyone who sees your work. And so I just thank you for sharing. And yeah, I always say sharing is caring. Yeah, see, we don't have hardly near the same amount of pictures for our slideshow as we did last week. So we might be flying through this live video pretty quickly. Let me just make sure that we're still going. Mandy said that quote gives her chills. I know, me too. Goodness gracious. Oh, that's scary. I have uncles and cousins who are in law enforcement, and it's a thing something like that really does, you know, give some reality to what they do. So for our topics tonight, we have, let's see, let's move the screens over. I always feel like I'm missing a huge conversation and I'm like trying to peek in. Just know that when the live is over and I go sit with Harlan, that I'll be reading all your conversations. So feel free to share, feel free to talk with one another. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to comment because we see all of that. And yeah, I love reading it all when we're all done. So for our topics this evening, first we're going to start with some group updates. Okay, so about a week ago, was it last week, I updated some of the rules on our page. You know, when I first started this group, I didn't have any rules. I'm always like, yeah, there's no rules and, you know, do what you want. And then the larger that we grew, and we're still growing, the more I'm starting to realize that we do not necessarily rules. We need structure. And we need structure in order to protect all of our members here and to keep things running smoothly and to keep us focused on creating. And one thing that I absolutely do not like is drama. And so I like to keep our group drama-free and nonsense-free. And let's just focus on sharing and creating and inspiring and lifting each other up. So I had to update our rules a little bit. Now, they're not difficult rules. They're not like laying down the law, but we're going to go over them just in case you missed that post, or if you've just joined us since last week. Just want to talk about it for a second. So I just wanted also to say that new joining members must answer the security question to join. So if you're on our group and you have sent invites to your creative friends or your family to join our group, make sure to tell them that there's a little security question that they need to answer in order for me to add them. And I think really the purpose of that is it's going to reduce a lot of the fake profiles or the people who might cause issues, any of that stuff. I think answering that simple little question is going to alleviate a lot of issues right off the get-go. It's a real easy question, but if they don't answer it, I'm not hitting accept. So if you're sending out invites, make sure to tell them to answer that question. And it's just a simple question like, what is your favorite crafting genre? Something like that. Okay, but that has to be answered. The first rule that we added last week was no advertising, soliciting, fundraising, or spam. Now, y'all, I am all for small business owners and creatives who make items for profit. I support you 1,000%. I'm one of them. However, I'm going to apply this rule even to myself in this group from here on out. Grandfathering in the family tree quilt because that was a topic we talked about in a couple lives ago. So we are going to talk about that for just a second. It's kind of grandfathered in. But yeah, from here on out, we're not going to do any advertising. If you're looking for services to be rendered, if you're looking for someone who can long arm your quilt or make you a quilt or make you a t-shirt, if you're looking for someone who can do any of those things, if you are someone who can do those things and you provide services, if you're raising funds for any reason, and if you're just selling something right off the get-go, tumblers or, you know, this and that, we're going to delete those posts. Again, and I think I went into it in pretty good detail when I posted the new rules. I want you to share your talents. If you are a long arm quilter, share your quilting. If you make t-shirt quilts on commission, to share your quilts. If you do embroidery work for others, share your embroidery pictures. And the more active you are in that way, the group members will see that. And if they need your services, they'll know who to contact, and they can do that privately between your private Facebook pages. So yes, I'm all for sharing, and I'm all for self-promotion on our own pages. I just want to really focus this group as one of those groups where we can come and share freely, and we're not bombarded with sales tactics or weird posts. So I try to be very vigilant in watching our group throughout the day and deleting things that I think might be questionable. And so if you've had a post deleted, there's only been like 2 or 3, that would be the reason why, and more than likely I've reached out to you, so you would know that I've done that. But yeah, so that's the first rule that we added. And the second rule, because I've seen, and this isn't really a rule, this was just like a blanket statement. I've seen people ask, is it okay if I share this YouTube link? It's by somebody else. Absolutely. I want you to feel free to share videos, blogs, websites, pictures, all kinds of stuff. I am certainly not the only creative person out there who makes videos. We have members here who have blogs. We have members here who also do videos. We have members here who do all kinds of stuff. And yes, I would love it if you share the videos here. Certainly there's a lot of stuff to learn, and I think it benefits everybody. And I don't want to just close off our group to just my stuff. It's not about me. So that's just a blanket statement number 2 that I wanted to go over in person with you in case you missed that post. And really, that's it. And I think everybody was okay with those rules when I posted them. And that was our topic number 1. So I tried not to go on about that too much, but wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page. Topic number 1, did I cover everything? Yes, make sure that your friends know to answer that security question, because I've had a couple of requests sitting there for a day or 2, and I really want to hit accept, but I want to make sure they're legit before we just add them into our group. So make sure to let them know to do that. All right, topic number 2. Now this one, y'all, I feel like is grandfathered in, and after this, I'm not going to post videos that contain monetized content like patterns for sale and any of that kind of stuff, because I think I should follow along the same guidelines as everybody else here on this group. Now on my Lisa Capen Quilts Facebook page, I post all that stuff, but recently I've tried to cut down on the stuff that I sell. Now stuff that I do, like our challenges or other projects or quilts that I'm making, I like sharing that with you on this group, and I'll still continue to do that. But monetized quilt patterns like the family tree quilt and the mystery quilt coming up, those I will only share on my business page. I hope you share your pictures though, like if you make the family tree quilt or you follow along in the mystery quilt and you do some of that, or you're making that quilt, I hope you share your pictures. But because I'm the creator of the pattern, I'm not going to. I'm going to follow our rules. Okay, but this one is grandfathered in. We talked about this in a live video a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to share my picture with you. So many of you asked if I would make a pattern for the family tree quilt. I heard back from my client that I made my quilt for a couple years ago. She had that quilt made for her grandfather for Christmas, and I did not know this, but he has since passed. But she shared a picture with me of her and her grandfather holding up the quilt, and she told me that every morning he would wake up and make his bed and drape his family tree quilt over his bed. I just thought that that was so awesome. And I was so sad to hear about her grandfather, but when he passed, the family gave her back the quilt, so now she has it. But anyway, many of you asked about that quilt, and so this is a smaller version, and it's one that everybody could do. You don't have to do free motion work on this quilt. You could do stitch in the ditch on this quilt. And I most certainly think that you could make this quilt with fabric instead of paint. I think it's going to require a little bit more thought process, but you could do it. You'd have to use like the 17-page PDF and use that as a tracing template for like your fusibles or freezer paper, but you could do it if you don't want to use the fabric paint. But that's my quilt. I just finished it up yesterday. I posted the video for it this morning. So if you haven't checked that out, I would love it if you go give it a watch. It's a fun video. And yeah, I think that it looks perfectly in my studio. So if you make a quilt like this, or you use this video as inspiration to make something like it, I hope you share pictures with us. We would love to see it. I'm always amazed at what creativity comes out of others just by watching a simple video. All right, that's all we're going to talk about the family tree quilt. So then I'm going to read this part to you, but before we get started on Mandy's topic, I just want to make sure we're still running smooth. Okay, yes, we're still going. All right, I'm going to read Mandy's comment because this one's a little bit small, but it's so that I can make the slides a little bit bigger. She said, "Hey Lisa, my friends and I had a conversation this week about the differences between the uses for stabilizer, interfacing, and fusible webbing. It gets confusing and is intimidating for a lot of people. Might be a good topic for tonight if it hasn't already been discussed." Now, one thing, Mandy, is I don't mind going over things 2 and 3 or 4 times so that everybody's on the same page. If you have a question, I hope you reach out and ask it. We might have covered it 100 times already. We will cover it again. But I don't know that this question's ever been answered or asked. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about it this evening. So one of the things that I thought of as soon as you posted this question is I'm thinking in most of my t-shirt quilt videos that I misuse the word stabilizer. And after reading the description of all 3 of them, pretty sure I'm using interfacing and not stabilizer. Sometimes I call it interfacing in my videos, but more times than not, I call it stabilizer. So let's take a look at what stabilizer actually is. Okay, materials used in sewing to hold fabric flat and inflexible. See, that's one of the reasons why I call it a stabilizer, because it holds it flat, but it's not inflexible, it's just not as stretchy. So it's more easily stitched. They are named for the method required to move them from the fabric after embroidery is finished. So just to let y'all know, I just didn't type this stuff out from the knowledge in my head, okay? I did some Google searches for the terms that we're going to use tonight. So you have tear away, heat away, wash away, and cut away, and those are your 4 main types of stabilizers. And mainly, stabilizers are used for like embroidery and supporting your work when you're doing like a satin stitch with your domestic machines, doing a zigzag stitch, anything where you're doing dense stitches. to keep your fabric nice and flat and to keep those stitches pretty. Now I call the Capen P44F the interfacing that I use on my t-shirt quilts. I oftentimes call it stabilizer, and I think that that might be confusing because I think it's actually considered an interfacing. So there's the 4 main types of stabilizers, and mostly they're used for embroidery work and stabilizing your work while you do dense stitches. Interfacing is a textile used on the unseen side of fabrics to make an area of a garment more rigid. So that explains that, doesn't it? Interfacings can be used to stiffen or add body to fabric, such as a shirt collar. It can strengthen or a certain area of fabric, like when you're doing buttonholes on cuffs, or the little, sometimes some of the button front shirts that have the buttons going down the front. If you cut open that section, you'll find a little bit of interfacing in there. Some shirts have that. And to keep fabrics from stretching out of shape, such as knits and t-shirts. So yes, the Capen P44F, technically, I guess, is considered an interfacing. And I probably need to remember that in future videos, because I can see how that would be totally confusing. And then we have fusible webbing. Now there's all different kinds of ways that you could use this. My first thought is like applique work and stuff like that, but I'm going to show you how Sherry uses it here in just a second. Fusible webbing is sticky bonding that adheres 2 fabrics together. Comes in many different brands, and each are slightly different. Some fusibles have paper on one side, like Capen Light. Some have paper on both sides. I'm wondering if that's like Wonder Under. I've never used it before, but it has paper on both sides. And some have no paper at all. Is that like the, maybe that's Wonder Under. I've seen it at Joann's, really flimsy, and you just cut a piece off, put your 2 pieces of fabric with that sandwiched in the middle and fuse it, and your 2 pieces are stuck together. I mainly use fusible webbings for applique work. But I'm going to show you how Sherry used some here in just a second. Some are permanent and require no stitching, like the Heat and Bond in the Rid package. You do not have to sew. That is permanent. I did a quilt like 20 years ago and used that, and all of the applique is exactly where it was when I made the quilt, and I did not stitch any of it down. And then some are not permanent and need to be sewn down, like the Heat and Bond Light, which is in the purple package. That has to be sewn. So they all have different rules, different ways to heat set them, different uses, but basically they all do the same thing. So I'm hoping that that answers your questions between the 3 and takes a little bit of the confusion out. There's all kinds of websites out there that really go into detail and show pictured examples, and I think I wrote some of them down. Yes, academyofquilting.com has a great article about it. nationalsewingcircle.com has lots of information about the 3 different things that we just covered, and fusibleinterfacing.com also has pictured examples, so you can go there and actually see pictures of each one, and they go into really great detail about the differences between stabilizer interfacing and fusible products, fusible webbing. So academyofquilting.com, nationalsewingcircle.com, and fusibleinterfacing.com. There's a plug for those 3 websites. But yeah, I found them really helpful, and they had pictures and everything. So Mandy, I'm hoping that that answers some of those questions. But on the same topic, let me clear this off. On our post that's tagged up towards the top of our page for this live, Sherry responded and said that this might be helpful for you, Mandy, because this is one of the ways that she uses a fusible webbing in her projects. So let me get organized. Let's see where we are. So this first photo I'm just going to tell you about because she had a lot typed out and there's no way it would all fit into this window. So she said I could abbreviate, and I'm going to abbreviate for this first photo. And if you want to read more information, go to our page at the top, the pinned post announcement for today, and scroll through those comments. She has a lot more information about this photo, but she is in the process of making some memory bears out of sweaters. And you see the green sweater. You don't see the green sweater on the screen. Now you do. Due to the holes in the sweater, she used a coordinating colored cotton fabric behind her sweater. She used a lightweight fusible called Stitch Witchery, which has no paper, just like the one we were just talking about. There's no paper on either side. And she fused that between her sweater and the coordinating cotton fabric right in the middle, and she fused that together. And she goes into more detail about her whole process here. But she didn't want any fusible to be able to be seen through the holes in the sweater, which is brilliant. And I've never used Stitch Witchery, and so I'm interested who all has used it and what do you think, and what are the ways that you have used it. So thank you, Sherry, for sharing this photo example. I have 2 more photos of Sherry's to share with you. But this was one of the ways she used a fusible in response to Mandy's question. And so I appreciate you sharing, Sherry. For this next picture, she said you can see the green cotton through the holes of the knit. Let me pull up the photo. There we go. I did the embroidery. of the foot using coffee filter as tearaway stabilizer. So she has coffee filter actually hooped in her hoop. That's what it looks like as her tearaway stabilizer. Hooped what I could of the sweater and pinned the loose edge to the coffee filter. Once the embroidery was done, I cut out the feet. The butterfly is an iron-on embroidered patch. We'll see the butterfly here in just a second. So this picture is showing where she's actually doing embroidery on the sweater that is hooped with coffee filter as her tearaway stabilizer. So I'm curious, Sherry, how many layers of coffee filters do you have hooped in your hoop? And yeah, I think that's a great way to hoop what you can and then pin the rest down to your stabilizer. I've done that before. Sometimes it's just not possible to hoop the entire item that you're embroidering. And so, yeah, you have to get creative and use pins or tape or glue sticks, whatever you can do to keep that from moving. So she's doing some embroidery in this picture. And then she said the heart is felt appliqued on with her embroidery machine. Let's pull that photo up. Okay, there you go. All right, so the heart on the left is felt appliqued on with her embroidery machine. That is so interesting. Sherry, I'm thinking, you know, we've talked before, girlfriend, about you making some videos. I would love to see a video on how you stitch that out. The butterflies are iron-on patches from Joann's. I thought they looked familiar. I've seen them. And at first when you shared your picture, I was like, wow, her embroidery machine has been like going and going and going. I love the patches. I'm assuming they have a special meaning for the project for the bears that you're making. And I'm hoping that you share pictures of your bears when you're done. Make sure I have all of your photos. Yes. Okay, that's all of your photos. Thank you so much for responding to Mandy. And any of you who have advice on stabilizers and interfacing for Mandy, I would love if you share. I would love if you gave her some insight that she could share with her friends too on different Fusible products. We're all different. We all like using different things, and it's kind of fun and informative to hear other people what they like to use, because I kind of stick to what I know and what I know works for me. But sometimes I see suggestions here on our group and I'm like, you know what? The next time I'm out, I might pick some of that up and work with it. It might be my new favorite. You never know. So I hope you do share. And I look forward to reading all of that fun stuff. So let's see, that brings us to Darlene. We're going by quick tonight, y'all. All right, this is going to be a little bit small. I'm going to bring this up on the screen. Darlene said, I am getting ready to do a memory quilt for a family member. One of the shirts provided for the quilt has a large V shape, probably 8 inches across the wide top portion down to a point in a triangular or V shape. That is decorative lace. I'm curious about how to go about including it in the quilt. So if you have advice for Darlene, I'm sure that she would appreciate any feedback if you've added shirts like this to your quilts. And the first thing that I thought of was a video that I made. Let's see, this was 8 months ago. So if you go to my channel and you're scrolling through, go down about 8 months ago if you haven't already seen this video. And it's not exactly what you're asking, but the technique is the same. And so you could just transfer the information to what you're working with. But it's filling in neck areas and areas of the shirt that are missing, like on tank tops and things like that. I've done the same technique on several quilts that have V-necks for filling in that V section. Sometimes I have just regular t-shirts that have logos that are right up to the seam of the collar. And to get that logo centered in the block, I have to bring the whole shirt down and fill in some of the neck area. I follow the same steps as I do in this video. If you're sewing the lace, I'm thinking it has a lace trim. That's what I'm thinking in my head when I read your question or your post, is that it's a V-neck that's open and along the V is some lace. What I've done in the past, there was a memory quilt maybe 2 months ago. It's been since we moved here. And she had a lacy, hers was a U shape, it wasn't a V. And it had lace around the collar. And I just followed this step from this video. And when I stitched around the open area to permanently secure the material that I filled in the empty space with, I just used a zigzag stitch and stitched, making sure to catch that lacy material and that it was all stitched in. You might have to go with a wider stitch, and to keep it all nice and flat and pretty, you could increase the stitch length. That's what I did. But I'm hoping that maybe you get some really good suggestions from everybody else too. But if you watch this video and you have questions, reach out and send me a photo of the shirt. Post a photo here on our group. You'll get tons of feedback. And sometimes it's easier to actually see what you're working with. It makes it a little bit easier to know how to advise you to move on. But I'm thinking that this video here will help you, and if not, just let us know. We'll help you however we can get you through that shirt. And I hope you post pictures of your quilt as you're working and when you get done. That's all of our topics tonight. We've gone through everything so fast. Did I rush through that? Let me get a sip of tea and make sure we're still going live, because we have a fun little challenge. Not a hard one this week, y'all. It's going to require minimal effort. Ooh, that feels better. Okay, for our challenge this week. Again, I've had so much fun looking at all of the pictures from our challenges, and sometimes they're going to be, you know, a little bit more difficult, and sometimes they're going to be super easy, like this week. I think with Halloween this week, and from what I can tell, several people are in huge big projects that are time consuming. I think this challenge is called for. So it's just a sharing challenge. In the fun of trick-or-treating, share your favorite treat that you enjoy while crafting or creating, and post photos on our page. Now, if you're like me, that's going to require pictures of a sweet treat. But some of you, it might be carrot sticks or apples, healthy stuff. No matter what, whatever your staple thing that you like, it's as important as your sewing machine. Is there anybody out there who's like that, like me? I have to have something like to keep me busy. So my favorites are like Twizzlers. In the last month, it's been these things, which are horrible for my mouth. My mouth is so sore from those. The other day, I could barely even talk. But yes, so just take a picture. You know, you've seen those pictures in other groups of the sewing machine, and they've opened up the little drawer on their sewing machine where all of the bobbins and the little sewing machine tools are supposed to be in, and instead there's a bunch of M&Ms in there. Share that kind of picture. And it's just really like a get to know each other better kind of challenge. Something fun. And something that's not going to require a lot of effort for this week. So what do you think? What do you think of that challenge? I look forward to seeing all the different kinds of snacks and treats and candy and whatever it is that you enjoy. And I look forward to seeing those pictures. So we have a few minutes. I usually like to try and stay on for about an hour. So we've been going over an hour. The last two or three lives have been over an hour. So let me just see if I can catch up on some of our comments here. Oh, Darlene says, yes, the entire V is lace. Oh, so it's not open at all. Then maybe you could do something like Sherry did and place a cotton that coordinates underneath and adhere it with her stitch witchery. Maybe that's an option. Everybody says that's a great challenge. It's not hard, is it? Mandy, do you like these too? So here's my confession for this week. This is my 5th bag of these things in a month's time. My tongue has lost almost all sensation, and I still cannot stop eating them. For me, I think it's more of the chewy consistency that I like so much. I'm really weird about my candy treats, but yes, they're so good. If you've never tried them, get yourself a bag of them or 2. Don't do 3 or 4 like I did. Evelyn says she loves the family tree. Yes, Evelyn, it's such a fun quilt. And I think you're one of the ones who asked about the quilt to begin with, if I'm thinking right. Is that right? Didn't you ask me about that? And that's how we got talking about it a couple lives ago. Maybe it was somebody else. I could be totally wrong about that. Jan says she can do that challenge. Yvette says cool challenge. Yeah. Sandy says, I am unable to get comments for some reason, just letting you know that I was here. Sandy, sometimes Facebook is funny. If you just leave the live and maybe just click on home on Facebook and then come back to our group and re-enter the live, sometimes that fixes it. I follow a couple other people who do live videos, and sometimes that happens to me too, and I have to just leave and then come back. And more times than not, that fixes it. Other than that, I don't know what to tell Facebook. Get your stuff together, make the lives work right. Oh, Sherry said it might be fun to see costumes people have made too. Yeah, if you want to post your costumes that you've made. I have seen a couple of costumes come in this past week, and somebody said that it was going to be raining where they are, and that's a huge bummer. You've put all this effort into a Halloween costume, and then it's going to rain. So yeah, if you've made Halloween costumes, we'd love to see those. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Hey Tracy, it's okay that you're late. The replay is going to be up here forever. You just come and watch whenever you get here. Yvette says she'll have to try those treats. Yeah. Don't eat 5 bags like I have. I can't taste hardly anything right now, and it hurts to talk. Barbara says her treat of choice is a cheese crackers with peanut butter. She panics when she runs out. She sounds like me. Okay, a funny story before we leave, and the rest of the comments I'll have to read when we hang up here. So I tried these about a month ago, and I bought 1 bag of them from Food Lion, and they were so good. I went through the bag in like 2 days. So then I bought another one, and then another one. And so when that one was almost empty, Harlan was getting ready to go to Food Lion, and I said, hey, can you pick me up a bag of my little chewy balls? That's what I call them, the chewy balls. They're little tiny little balls. I'll take one out and show you. So he came back and he gave me a bag of them, and I thought that's all he got. So we're sitting in bed watching Netflix, and I'm eating my chewy balls, and I ran out. I was like, oh, I'm going to have to get some more chewy balls from the store tomorrow. And in about 10 minutes, he got up and he went downstairs. I thought he was just going to go get a drink of water or something. And he came back with another bag of chewy balls. He was hiding a bag for me for when I ran out. Wasn't that nice? He had 2 bags hiding for me. This is the second bag. So this is what they look like. I'm hoping that you can see them. This way, that way. So there's green apple, cherry, lemon, orange, and grape. They have such a great little chewy consistency, and they're super sour at first and then they get sweet. But the sour is what has really torn up my mouth. Chewy Sprees. Gummy bears. Rinse with 50/50 peroxide and water. I'm going to try that, Sandy. He is, Sherry. He's so sweet, and yeah, he does stuff like that. That's awesome. Yvette says she would eat all those in one setting. That's what's messed up my mouth. But, you know, I'm a glutton for punishment because I'm still eating them. Before we turned on our live, I was eating them. So that's my challenge for this week, is share your little snacks that you like to enjoy while you're creating, sewing, while you're watching TV. I think it'll be a lot of fun to get to know you better as we look through those photos this week. And then anything that you're working on creative-wise, feel free to share those pictures. And if you have questions about your projects, Darlene, I'm looking forward to checking more into the comments to see exactly what you've got going on, and share a picture, okay? Because I think it'll be really easy to help you more with your shirt, with the lace, if we see what you've got and what you're working with. But yeah, that is our video for this week. I feel like it's flown by. Trying to think if there's anything else before we go. I look forward to reading all of your comments when I'm done. I'm thinking that's it. Let me go back to this screen as we close out for today. That screen. So if you have time this evening, I would love if you go watch this video. And so an update on the printing on photos before we go. So I got my new color laser printer, and I've been doing some experimenting with that. Still experimenting even after today. I bought some retain. So my first project, I just did it the way that I do with my monochrome laser printer, and that toner is permanent. I can wash that 100 times and it doesn't wash out. I got a different brand color laser printer. Those toners are not permanent, and I'm having a heck of a time getting them to stay in the fabric. So the first project I made was one of the angel mosaics, except I printed it all out like a little art quilt. I quilted it and threw it in the wash, and almost all of it faded away. So then I ordered some retain, and that came like day before yesterday. So this afternoon, I made another one, printed another one, and I used the retain, followed the directions, quilted it, and threw it in the wash according to the directions on the bottle, and it faded. Now, it didn't fade quite nearly as bad as the first one with no treatment. That's almost totally gone, but it still faded more than I would want it to fade in a quilt project that I was going to wash. So now I'm back at the drawing board. I think, well, y'all know me, I don't pre-wash my fabrics. Tomorrow I'm going to pre-wash some cotton muslin fabric and try the retain again and see if that doesn't make a difference. And if that doesn't work, I am ordering some bubble jet. Now, I've never used that before, and I just realized today that that comes as a two-part. Like, there's a pre-solution for your fabric, and then you print on your fabric, and then there's a solution for treating your photo after it's printed. So I have both of those in my Amazon shopping cart, and I'll probably be ordering that tomorrow. So I'm experimenting one way or another. I'm going to get the toners for this printer to be permanent, So I can make some quilt labels that are printed and I can print photos for quilts that can be washed, because that quilt cannot be washed. But however, my patterns that I printed out look phenomenal. The colors on paper look amazing. Actually, the colors on fabric look awesome. They're just not permanent. So I'm figuring all that out the rest of this week. All right. So I went off on a tangent. I wasn't planning on talking about that. All right, y'all. I am off for this evening. I will see you all on our group. Thank you so much for spending time out of your busy week with me. I appreciate that so much, and I enjoy the fellowship and the laughs and the sharing, and I hope you do too. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I hope you participate too. Drop down to the comments section. We all go over there and check out the videos and the comments. I read every single comment, so I would love to talk with you. All right, everybody. I hope y'all have an awesome evening. We'll see you really soon. Share your treats. I need something else to eat besides these chewy balls. Right? Good night, everybody.